Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of All For You. This will be part 13, day 25. All for one side, as he and Ito walked away from yet another hours-long, completely unproductive meeting with the heroes. The progress they had made in 3 meetings and more hours than he would prefer to count can be summarized as not Tartarus, and that was pretty much it. He knew that was largely because he was being stubborn. He was aware that it was taking a risk being so obtuse. However, the only direction he could go was down when it came to negotiations. He didn't have anything truly substantial to hold over the heroes' heads that would give him an edge in these negotiations. Not like Izuku's custody, which was his Achilles' heel. Sure, he had information on most underground crime in Japan, but he had already given up Garaki, who was one of his linchpins, in an almost certainly sleep-deprived decision. And Garaki was a coward. If it came down to it, they would be able to get quite a bit of information out of him. If he gave up too much too quickly, he was certain that the HPSC would find a way to just get what they wanted. He and Izuku would be living in a Tartarus cell, with a crib and absolutely no way of defending or speaking for themselves. All his quirks, all his connections would be at the HPSC's beck and call, with his custody of Izuku and potentially Izuku's health care, hanging by a thread should he try to resist. It left him with no choice but to try and hold as tight as he could, do as much as he could, for as long as he could. If he compromised too quickly, the heroes would take everything from them. But if he was being honest with himself, he had next to no control over Izuku's situation, something that gave him heart palpitations if he let himself think about it too long. The idea of giving up control, even in negotiations, well, it was something that he didn't want to ponder. Even still, he wasn't doing this for himself. He was doing this for Izuku. He wanted his son to have a life worth living. Hizashi wanted to bring out the champagne the day Izuku's ventilator was finally switched off, enough for everyone on the staff and then some. He didn't, of course. For one, the staff was not allowed to drink on duty, and truth be told, he would not want them to. For another, he would be arrested and dragged away from Izuku the moment he set foot outside Tanima's property without the protection of Tanima's rehab program. He was certain that, even with their frequent, unproductive meetings, the heroes were still watching the hospital like hawks. And there was also the fact that Izuku was still not well enough to be fully weaned off respiratory support. Weaning off the ventilator had taken a very long time, and he could not simply go from full ventilator support to breathing all on his own. He was being bridged to it, in a way. Still breathing on his own, but with the support of a CPAP machine and supplemental oxygen. That way, he would not have too many bouts of apnea, essentially his son forgetting to breathe, another common issue in preemies. So perhaps he could save the champagne for the day Izuku was finally able to breathe fully on his own, or perhaps the day he was discharged. Either worked, so long as he was there for it. The CPAP mask was more obvious than the ventilator tube. It required Izuku to wear a different, less cute hat that, to be honest, didn't quite look like a hat. He missed the sunshine hat. To keep it in place, it was still beyond tiny. The triangular mask placed over Izuku's nose could balance on the tip of his thumb. He really should stop being surprised by these things. Izuku himself could still fit comfortably in his cupped hands. Of course, everything had to be in miniature. It didn't make it any easier to comprehend. Izuku's blood pressure cuff was small enough to go around his pinky. "You know," Hizashi said, closing yet another free parenting magazine and turning to look at Izuku. Izuku blinked at him, quietly curled up under his tiny blankets and supportive pillows. He was awake for now, but would no doubt be back to sleeping soon. His sleep was important. It was the best time for Izuku to grow and heal. That being said, he treasured the moments Izuku was awake and alert. Even the tiniest interaction with him felt like a priceless gift. Hizashi smiled and propped his chin up on a closed fist as he watched his son watch him. "You know," he started again, "as proud as I am that you were off the ventilator, and believe me, I am very proud of that achievement, I don't particularly appreciate having something else to worry about." "Ugh," Izuku said. Hizashi froze, eyes wide. His mouth opened and closed, but he could think of nothing to say. Izuku made the same noise again. Izuku had been on the ventilator for so long he had forgotten. He had forgotten that Izuku would be able to vocalize once he was free of it. How could he have forgotten? Izuku continued, lifting his chin a little as he shifted in place, his movements slow and relaxed and calm. Izuku's voice was high-pitched and squeaky. It pierced right through his heart and melted it into a puddle. Hisashi cooed, folding his arms against the small ledge of the incubator and bringing his face as close as it could be to his baby boy. He wanted to hold him. He wanted to hold him so badly it hurt. He wanted to hold him close to his heart and stroke his little hand and kiss his button nose. Izuku watched him, and Hisashi cooed again, the largest, goofiest smile on his face. Izuku's tiny pink tongue pushed out of his mouth, but he stayed quiet. "Can you say something again, Sweet Bean?" Hisashi asked. "You're being so talkative, Sunshine. I'd love to hear your voice some more." Izuku said, his eyes starting to drift close. He was getting tired. "Oh, thank you," Hisashi breathed. "Thank you. I'm so proud of you, Izuku." Izuku yawned and closed his eyes, his breathing evened out in his sleep. "So proud of you." All right, listeners, this concludes day 25 of All For You. Day 29 will be up next, which will be a longer section. Hope you all are still enjoying, and as always, thank you so much for listening.